Hello, this is Arindam Ghosh, and I have already introduced myself in the previous videos that I'm an assistant professor in the Department of English, Krishna Chandra College, Hetampur, Birbhum, and this is probably my 19th video lecture. Today I will teach my 4th semester students about Gulliver's Travels. I have already told you the reason behind this video lectures that because of a global pandemic of the attack of the novel coronavirus, I am actually taking various series of video lectures through this medium of the YouTube, and I'm trying to interact and communicate with you through this very medium. So I will request all my students be very much patient and be very much interactive with me in this particular medium. I will request him to remain very much patient because please do not think about whether the examination will happen or not, when will it happen. We don't really know. We do not have any form of announcement on the part of the university. So please do not panic in the first place. And secondly, remain patient, do study, do read, and use and utilize this particular time for your examination of semester 4. And obviously the semester 6 will occur before the examination of the semester 4. So get ready for these examinations. Now, as I have already told you that this is my 4th lecture on Gulliver's Travels. I've already introduced you with the text of the Gulliver's Travels. I've told you that it's actually in the CC 8 of British literature, 18th century, Daniel Defoe, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, and I have already introduced you with the text. This is my 4th lecture, and today I will begin book 2, Gulliver's Voyage into the Land of the Brobdingnagians. So let's start. So let's have a bit of revision. I have introduced you with the text of the Gulliver's Travels when it was published, and I have given you about a brief biographical sketch of Jonathan Swift, born in England in 1667, died in 1745. Swift was very much associated with the contemporary English and British politics. He was himself a member of the Tories, though he was himself a member of the Whigs at the first stage of his life. And Gulliver's Travels is an anti-Whig satire. It's a pro-Tory, anti-Whig satire. He was a member of the Tory party. I have also discussed with you what are the basic ideologies of the Whig party, what are the basic ideologies of the Tory party. Whigs are basically, they question the power and the expenditure of the king and the royal family. They believed on the power of the parliament, and they themselves believed the parliament should have more power than the king. They strongly believed on the right of the religious minorities like Catholics and the non-conformists. And Whigs were less resistant to change and became more and more pro-reform as the influence of the new middle class over them grew. While on the other hand, Tory believed on the divine rights of the king. They believed on the royal power. At the same time, they believed they defended the supremacy of the Church of England, that is Protestant Church, Anglican Church. And at the same time, Tories were very much fearful and resistant to change and revolution, which led them to want to put down protest severely. I've discussed about the contemporary political atmosphere of England. I've discussed about how different denominations of Christianity arrived in England after the Reformation, how English Reformation and European Reformation are different with one another. I have introduced you with basic concepts of Restoration literature, and then I have also introduced you with the book 1, book 2, book 3, and book 4 of Gulliver's Travels, though only book 1 and book 2 are recommended in your syllabus. So let us move, and then I have given you a chapter-wise analysis of book 1 in Gulliver's Travels. Today, I'll begin book 2, A Voyage to Brobdingnag, chapter 1. So let us begin. So as I've already told you that there is a recurrent pattern that is occurring throughout Gulliver's Travels. What is that recurrent pattern? Ki ekta jinish seta barbar ghotche Gulliver's Travels e, that Gulliver will return home and then he will again commence a voyage to an unknown territory. Perhaps he will begin a voyage to a known territory. Then the ship will lost its way and arrive into an unknown territory, a completely untraversed and unexplored terrain. So in the beginning of this chapter 1, Gulliver is home for only 2 months when he and his crew of the Adventure is the name of the ship. So remember, the name of the ship in the second book is Adventure, will set sail for Surat. Jodi porikhaye proshno kore what is the name of any place of India that occurred in the book 2 of Gulliver's Travels, it is Surat, located in Gujarat. এখন সুরাট পোর্ট অত্যন্ত বিখ্যাত একটা অয়েল অ্যান্ড ন্যাচারাল গ্যাস ডিপো ইন্ডিয়ার মধ্যে, বাট সুরাট তখনও পোর্ট হিসাবে যথেষ্ট নাম করা ছিল। সো while beginning his journey for Surat, a storm blows their ship far off course. When they finally sight land and the captain sends a crew, including Gulliver, to explore the land. So while the crew looks for drinking water, which is obviously the first major prerogative after arriving in a particular unknown island, Gulliver tries to explore another part of the island. Now the men are set upon by a huge creature that chases them. A huge creature begins to chase them into an ocean and back to their ship. Gulliver, who was investigating the shore of the new country, is left behind. And eventually Gulliver is discovered by several of these huge creatures that are in reality very giant-like human beings. They look like human beings, but they are giant in their very appearance. Now these giants prove to be friendly and curious to Gulliver, and eventually one of these giants, a farmer, takes Gulliver to his farmhouse, where the farmer's friendly family receives Gulliver. So in the very first beginning of the very first chapter of the voyage to the Brobdingnag, we will find a contrast between the book 1. Book 1 e লিলিপুটরা গালিভারকে কিন্তু একেবারেই ফ্রেন্ডলি একজন মানুষ হিসেবে দেখেনি. Rather, they actually saw him as a kind of adversary because of his huge size. But in this book too, the size and the point of view and the perspective has completely been altered. Gulliver here is a very small man compared to the huge Brobdingnagians. They're huge in size and they're very much curious in seeing Gulliver. Gulliverকে বাড়িতে নিয়ে গেল, ফার্ম হাউসে রাখলো। তাহলে এখানেই একটা যে প্রথম ঘটনা ঘটলো, চেঞ্জ ইন পার্সপেক্টিভ. While book 1 is the voyage to the land of the Lilliput, where Lilliputs are only 6 inches long, and Gulliver is 12 size longer than those people. On the other hand, these Brobdingnagians are 12 times bigger than Gulliver. আমরা পরবর্তীকালে আরেকটু টেক্সট এগুলো বুঝতে পারবো that the Brobdingnagians are also a much more morally superior race than that of the Lilliputians, and in fact than that of the human. যেখানে বুক 1 এ গালিভারকে বারবার রিপ্রেজেন্ট করা হয়েছে as a representative of the human, as almost an ideal human being, though not quote unquote ideal, but as a human being who is much more superior than the Lilliputians. Lilliputians থেকে অনেক superior. একটা ডিস্টেন্স থেকে, একটা অবজেক্টিভ পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ থেকে দেখছে, হাসছে, স্যাটিরাইজ করছে, বিদ্রুপ করছে। এখানে বিদ্রুপের অস্ত্র কিন্তু গালিভার নিজে বিদ্রুপ করছে in the book 1, but in the book 2 we will see that the perspective has been completely changed, and in this book 2, A Voyage to the Land of the Brobdingnag, we can clearly understand that Gulliver, though he is a vehicle of satirizing those people the people of the people of the Lilliputian will transform himself. Himself has been transformed into a butt of ridicule in the book 2 of A Voyage to the Brobdingnag. And Brobdingnagera onek beshi morally superior than that of the humans. আমরা সেটা পরবর্তীকালে পড়লে টেক্সট যখন এগোবো জানতে পারবো গালিভারের ইউরোপের সিভিলাইজেশনের বিভিন্ন ডেসক্রিপশন শুনে the king will laugh. Of course, the Brobdingnagian king will laugh. So, critical comment. When Gulliver finds himself in Brobdingnag, Swift first sets up the size ratio. Now the tables have been turned. The Lilliputians were midgets means very small size humans, 1/12 of Gulliver's size. But here the condition is completely different. The Brobdingnagians who capture Gulliver, however, do not think of Gulliver as little man or as a little Brobdingnagian. তারা কিন্তু একটা ডিস্টিংশন রাখছে Brobdingnagian একটা সেপারেট ডিফারেন্ট আইডেন্টিটি। সো তাকে হিউম্যান হিসেবে বা তাকে Brobdingnagian হিসেবে আলাদা করে কোনোভাবে কনফিউজ করছে না, বাট রাদার think of him as being weasel-like or like dangerous and repulsive vermin. Thus Gulliver, in retrospect, seems more human than we might have realized. To him, the Lilliputians were never insects or vermin, no matter how odious they acted. For এখানে Gulliver কিন্তু যেভাবে লিলিপুটিয়ানদের দেখেনি, এখানে কিন্তু Brobdingnagianরা হয়তো অনেকটাই অন্যরকম ভাবে গালিভারকে দেখছে। He's a plaything. So, on the other hand, Gulliver, after visualizing these huge creatures, he records his disgust at their physical selves. খুব একটা পছন্দ করছে না তাদের physical self, physical detail. Gulliver is not at all liking the physical detail of these great monsters, or rather, because he cannot overlook or dismiss these magnified pores and moles. এটা হয়তো আমাদের মানুষদেরই বলছে যে যদি আমরা একটা হিউজ সাইজ হই, আমাদের এই ম্যাগনিফাইড মোলস, আমাদের ম্যাগনিফাইড ফিজিক্যাল ডিসক্রিপেন্সি, এটা হয়তো আমাদের নিজেরই দেখে ভালো লাগে না, বিকজ উই আর মেড আপ অফ ফ্লেশ, অ্যান্ড ফ্লেশ ইজ সাবজেক্টেড টু ডিফর্মিটি, ওকে, অ্যান্ড ডিফেক্ট, অফ কোর্স। Chapter 2. The book 2 of Gulliver's Travels, A Voyage to the Land of the Brobdingnagian, has been divided into 8 chapters. Okay, so we have arrived into the chapter 2. Now, of all the family, and the farmer's daughter is the most fascinated by Gulliver. He seems like walking and talking to her almost like a doll, and she enjoys caring for him and even gives him a new name called Grilldrig. This is very important for the sought question. What's the name given by the daughter of the farmer to Gulliver? Grilldrig. Gulliver ki name dakto farmer daughter ke? Glumdalclich, means nurse in that language. আমি যেটা বারবার বলছি, that there is a problematic that is operating inside the text. What is that problematic? In which language Gulliver is communicating with the netizens or the citizens who are of those unknown territories. In which language is he communicating? ওকি লিলিপুটিয়ান বা ব্রবডিগনাগিয়ান ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ সঙ্গে সঙ্গে শিখে ফেলছিল, সেই পার্টটা কিন্তু সুইফট আনআনসার্ড রেখে দিয়েছে। And Gulliver calls her as Glumdalclich, which means nurse in their own language. We can presuppose, of course, that Gulliver has already learned some of the terms, at least some of the basic requirements of that particular language. So news of Gulliver's living at the farmer's house spreads very quickly, and several visitors come to see him. At the urging of one particular gentleman, the farmer decides to take Gulliver to the marketplace and put him on the display for others to see for a price. So Gulliver becomes an object of commodification. He has been objectified. যাকে দেখিয়ে, যাকে বিক্রি করে আলাদা করে টাকা উপার্জন করা যেতে পারে। Now, this being successful, the farmer decides to take Gulliver on tour throughout the kingdom, including visiting the kingdom's metropolis called Lorbergrad. Now there Gulliver performs 10 times a day for all who wish to see him. We can of course give some Marxist interpretation of the text. আমরা জানি Karl Marx, who is one of the greatest philosophers of 20th century. According to him, he propounded the theory of the Marxism, I told you in the class. And according to him, land, labor, capital, organization, these are all modes of production. These can be used, of course, in an exploitative purpose in different society, in different way. Feudal culture, অন্যরকম ভাবে capitalist culture, অন্যরকম ভাবে এখানে গালিভারের শরীরকে exploit করা হচ্ছে. Here, the Brobdingnagians, especially the farmer, the Brobdingnagian farmer, is exploiting the body of the Gulliver, is exploiting Gulliver's ability to entertain people, তার লেবারকে বিক্রি করে সে টাকা উপার্জন করছে. So by this time, though Gulliver has presented too many performances, he's almost dead with fatigue, almost like a laborer in a huge city industry. So what are the critical comments we can make in this particular chapter? That Swift demonstrates that the giants are very kind and decent. It is a delicate process because on the surface, Gulliver seems to be mistreated. Yet the farmer is careful with Gulliver, and Glumdalclitch, Gulliver's name for the daughter, is especially loving with him. And no normal Brobdingnagian is malicious. Only children and the deformed are of that temper. So this is another very interesting point we can make, that about Swift's attitude toward those who are physically deformed and physically challenged. আমরা জানি that Swift was a misanthrope. Misanthrope means hater of the human beings, who hatred the entire race of the humanity. And Gulliver, in this particular text, is completely we can see that no normal Brobdingnagian is malicious. Only children and the deformed are of that temper. And Swift is depicting those who are physically challenged in a very negative light. আমি আগেই বলেছি সুইফটের অনেক ধরনের প্রেজুডিস ছিল, উইমেনদের প্রতি ছিল, চিলড্রেনদের প্রতি ছিল, and of course physically challenged তাদের প্রতি ছিল. So these giants are not perfect. They are akin to us, and even perhaps the best of us. অনেকেই বলে that the Brobdingnagians are perhaps the best version of the human race. And though as for the rest of us, we are sometimes malicious like the Lilliputians. So আমাদের নিজেদেরই চেহারাটাই লিলিপুটিয়ান এবং ব্রবডিংনাগিয়ানদের মধ্যে দিয়ে হয়তো সুইফট বলার চেষ্টা করছে. So there is a stray political comment in this particular section that is of interest. The Gulliver notes that the King of England himself would have felt isolated and different were he to be in a foreign land. The statement refers to perhaps George I, the contemporary King of England at the time of Jonathan Swift. The English, যদিও Jonathan Swift George I কেও পেয়েছে, আবার একটা বড় সময় জুড়ে Queen Annie কেও পেয়েছে. So the English, and especially the Tories, made much fun out of this George I's German origin. এর ফলেই এখানে বলেছে এই particular statement that even that the English king can feel himself not a very comfortable and isolated in this foreign land. Foreign land means England, which is a foreign land to George I because he's a German in origin. This is an artist's visualization of Gulliver in the land of the Brobdingnagians. দেখতে পাচ্ছ চারিদিকে বিরাট বড় বড় মুখ, চেহারা, তার মধ্যে ছোট্ট গালিভার দাঁড়িয়ে রয়েছে. And this is perhaps the farmer's daughter, Glumdalclitch. Moving on to the next chapter, the Queen actually asks for an audience with the farmer and Gulliver performs admirably and respectfully for her. So here occurs the entrance of the Queen in this particular chapter. প্রথম রানী এই চ্যাপ্টারে ঢুকলো. আমরা জানি যে Gulliver's Travels এর মধ্যে the invasion and the inclusion of the imperial power, those are in power, তাদের এন্ট্রান্স এই পার্টিকুলার সিচুয়েশন গুলোতে হচ্ছে বিভিন্ন সময় আমরা দেখতে পাবো. লিলিপুটে তো অবশ্যই ইন ল্যান্ড অফ দ্য লিলিপুট আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি কিং এর ইনফ্লুয়েন্স করছে, এখানেও কুইন এর ইনফ্লুয়েন্স হচ্ছে, এবং দেন অফ কোর্স দ্য কিং উইল এন্টার লেটার। The queen, being attracted to the novelty of this tiny man, buys Gulliver from the farmer. Included in this arrangement is the farmer's daughter, Glumdalclitch. So it's almost like a package. They have bought both Gulliver and Glumdalclitch as the companion of Gulliver, who will take care of Gulliver, who becomes a member of the Queen's court as Gulliver's nurse. So Glumdalclitch becomes actually part and parcel of the Queen's retinue. And conversing with the king, Gulliver tells him about the English customs and the politics. So Gulliver becomes very much interested in revealing about the superiority of the English culture, about the English custom, about the English politics. But he was unaware of the fact that Brobdingnagians are much more superior race than that of the English race that Gulliver represents. So the king is amused. He laughs at the fierceness of such tiny insects. এইটুকু চেহারা, বড় বড় কথার কোনো শেষ নেই, হ্যাঁ, হ্যান কারেঙ্গা ত্যান কারেঙ্গা, যুদ্ধ করবো, তুমি গান পাউডার কেন ইনভেন্ট করছো না, গালিভার বলবে। So Gulliver dares not to refute the king's opinion, because king not only is a king but also his size is huge, যে কোনো সময় ছোট্ট ধরে ছুঁড়ে ফেলে দেবে, ব্যাস শেষ। So Gulliver dares not refute the king's opinion. Indeed, before long, he adopts his host's point of view. The king and the queen are very happy with Gulliver, but there is one member of the royal entourage who is not at all happy with the appearance of Gulliver, and that is King's dwarf. He is very much jealous because Gulliver has replaced him in the queen's affection. So this dwarf is not at all a happy man. Now moving on to the next slide about the critical comments, we can say that Swift prevents us from idealizing the giants by reminding us of their incapacity to accept Gulliver as a scaled down version of the Brobdingnagian. So Swift, in fact, in this book also do not represent Brobdingnagians as the so-called ideal figure. Brobdingnagianদেরও অনেক monolithic viewpoint, অনেক flaws এখানে সুইফট এখানে বলার চেষ্টা করেছেন। The king discredits Gulliver and his fellow Englishmen. So this book too is also a satire against the English politics. The English, he emphasizes, are contradictory. They love, fight, dispute, cheat and betray. These are all very bad habits. In general, the Brobdingnagians do not. And interestingly, the only real villain in Brobdingnag is Queen's Jester, who is a dwarf. Remember, Gulliver is also a dwarf in this land of the giants. So dwarf means diminutive physically and lacking in the Brobdingnagian virtues. বারবার বলছি, সুইফট কিন্তু এই ফিজিক্যাল ভার্চুগুলোতে বিলিভ করতো, অলমোস্ট লাইক দ্য মিডিয়েভাল physiognomy, medieval notion of the physiology খুব ভয়ঙ্করভাবে বিশ্বাস করতো যে মানুষের চেহারা, various moles, various defects in the human physicality, they are actually reflective of the human mind. মানুষের চেহারাই মানুষের মনের পরিচয়। এই অদ্ভুত মিডিয়েভাল ফিজিওগনমি আইডিয়াতে বিশ্বাস করতো গালিভার, বা এই পার্টিকুলার কনটেক্সটে অফকোর্স জোনাথন সুইফট। So Queen's Jester is a dwarf, a diminutive creature, physically lacking the Brobdingnagian virtues, who wedges Gulliver into the hollow of a bone and dumps him into a large silver bowl of cream, barbar, almost at an atom to murder করবে. So in the book 1, we stood tall like Gulliver and watched the Lilliputians mimic human pourings and vanities. And now we stand small like Gulliver and listen to a moral giant discredit human pride and pretense. So in the book 1, we the human beings at least can, those who are non-English, of course, book 1 is a satire against the contemporary British politics. যারা ইংলিশ নয় তারা গালিভারের একটা পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ নিতে পারে, বা যারা ইংলিশ পলিটিক্সে পার্ট নয়, কিন্তু Brobdingnagian book number 2 in the voyage to the land of the Brobdingnagians, আমরা সেই ভিউ পয়েন্ট নিতে পারছি না। It's a satire upon the entire human race. Swift is critiquing all forms of human vices, be it pride, be it our pretension, everything. And Gulliver accepts King's judgment. Actually, it would be false pride not to do. The king is merely telling Gulliver and us what we already know about the damage that results from inflated pride. But Gulliver is still gullible. His acceptance of the king's viewpoint reflects the fact that he is beginning to adjust to the Brobdingnagian perspective. Gulliver হচ্ছে এমন একজন human being, spineless human being, the unreliable narrator, যেখানে যে কোনো পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ, যে কোনো ডিসকোর্স, যে কোনো ইডিওলজি দিয়ে তাকে মোল্ড করা যায়, পসিবল মোল্ড করা, এবং কিং যা বলছে গালিভার তাই শুনতে অলমোস্ট বাধ্য। So in this particular situation, I want to talk about a particular theory of gaze, G-A-Z-E. Gaze means দেখা, কেমন ভাবে দেখবো। এইটাই Gulliver's Travels are খুব important part. In the book 1 of Gulliver's Travels, in the voyage to the land of the Lilliput, this theory of gaze is used in a completely different way. যেখানে Gulliver Lilliputianদের একটা particular gaze of sympathy, a particular gaze of curiousness দেখছে। This particular notion of the gaze is inverted in the book 2. পুরো পাল্টে দিচ্ছে। দেখার দৃষ্টিটা বুক 2-তে voyage to the land of the Brobdingnag অনেকটা পাল্টাচ্ছে। So কিভাবে পাল্টাচ্ছে? In the book 2, the Brobdingnagians are much more socially, politically, and culturally superior than the human race. Gulliverকে দেখে হাসছে, মজা করছে, ঠাট্টা করছে, seeing the inflated pride of this very small human being. So in critical theory, sociology, and psychoanalysis, gaze is the act of seeing, and in the philosophical and figurative sense, how an individual perceives other individuals. একটা ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল অন্য ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালকে কেমন করে পারসিভ করছে, কেমন ভাবে দেখছে। যখন আমার বাড়িতে একটা অন্য প্রদেশ থেকে লোক এলো, ফর এক্সাম্পল একজন পাঞ্জাবি এলো আমাদের বাড়িতে, আমরা সঙ্গে সঙ্গে আইডেন্টিফাই করছি him as a different human being, as a different type of human being, as if আমরা কিন্তু আমাদের নিজেদের পার্ট বলে তাকে ভাবতে পারছি না। এইভাবে আমরা কনস্ট্যান্টলি যে ডিসক্রিমিনেশন করি বেসড অন জেন্ডার, বেসড অন ক্লাস, ক্রিড, আবার রিলিজিয়ান, আমাদের দেখার দৃষ্টিটা সেই মানুষকে বদলে যায়। আমাদেরই লোক বলে আমরা মনে করি না, যদি একটা অন্য পাগড়ি পরে, যদি অন্য কিছু পরে, একটু বড় দাঁড়ি রাখে, প্রত্যেকটা ক্ষেত্রে আমাদের ভিউ পয়েন্ট পাল্টে যাচ্ছে। সো দ্যাট ইজ গেজ। দ্য গেজ ইজ আ ভেরি পলিটিক্যালি অ্যান্ড কালচারালি লোডেড ওয়ার্ড। একটা মানুষের অ্যাপিয়ারেন্সের মধ্যে যখন তার আইডেন্টিটি ঢুকে পড়ে, কেমন করে দেখছি, সেই পার্সপেক্টিভ ইজ গেজ। সো গালিভারে অনেক ধরনের গেজ, সোশ্যাল গেজ, কালচারাল গেজ, অ্যান্ড ইনফ্যাক্ট পলিটিক্যাল গেজ, imperial gaze operate করছে। For example, Anne Kaplan has introduced in the post-colonial concept the concept of the imperial gaze, in which the observed find themselves defined in terms of the privileged observer's own set of value preferences. Very important words, where the observed finds themselves defined in terms of the privileged observer's own set of value preferences. প্রিভিলেজড অবজারভার কেমন ভাবে দেখবে তার ভ্যালু প্রেফারেন্স অনুযায়ী, তার উপর ডিপেন্ড করছে গালিভারের ভাগ্য, গালিভারের ডেস্টিনি ইন দিস পার্টিকুলার আননোন ল্যান্ড। সো ফ্রম দ্য পার্সপেক্টিভ অফ দ্য কলোনাইজড, দ্য ইম্পেরিয়াল গেজ infantilizes and trivializes what it falls upon, asserting its command and ordering function as it does so. So imperial gaze মানে হচ্ছে একজন এম্পায়ার, একটা এম্পায়ারের মধ্যে একজন কিং বা কুইন কেমন ভাবে তোমাকে দেখছে, পার্টিকুলারলি এই কনটেক্সটে গালিভারকে কেমন ভাবে দেখছে। যেমন ভারতে ব্রিটিশরা তুচ্ছ তাচ্ছিল্য বলে জ্ঞান করতো ভারতীয়দের, সেরকম ভাবে কেমন ভাবে দেখছে, দেখার দৃষ্টি, তার কথা বলা হয়েছে। I am giving you a famous example, a famous painting, The Conjurer by Hieronymus Bosch. It's a famous pre-Renaissance painting which shows the bending figure looking forward steadily, intently, with fixed attention. He is the conjurer trying to conjure, বশ করার চেষ্টা করছে, medieval necromancy, black magic, এটা অত্যন্ত popular habit ছিল about this conjuring, trying to conjure. While the others, this particular woman is looking beyond the frame. The frame এর বাইরে দেখছে, she is not at all interested. He is also looking in a completely different way. She is looking there, and her eyes is shut. So the different perspectives, that is gaze. So the conjurer by Bosc shows the bending figure looking forward steadily, intently with fixed attention, while other figures in the painting look in various directions, some outside of the painting. Now, coming into the chapter 4 of Gulliver's Travels. So when the king and the queen go traveling about the country, this is an episode where we have been described in a very great detail the land of the Brobdingnagians, because king and queen will decide to go traveling throughout the entire country, and they will decide to carry Gulliver, of course, with them. So Gulliver describes the island, the sea around the island, the city of the Lorbullgrad. Remember the name of the city, Lorbullgrad. Can come for 5 marks question, important question. Lorbullgrad, the king's palace, and his method of travel on the island, several of the island's inhabitants, and some of the sights to see on the island. So in describing the inhabitants of the island, Gulliver focuses on their illness and diseases. He mentions, for instance, giant beggars, horribly deformed, with lice crawling all over them. And Gulliver compares the sights to similar sights in his homeland. And finally, the dimensions of the king's palace are described, with the kitchen receiving particular attention. So Gulliver in this particular chapter again describes the beggars, those who are physically deformed. বারবার বলছি, physically challenged, physically deformed people they depict করার একটা অন্য লাইটে, বিশেষ করে beggars, নেগেটিভ লাইটে পোর্ট্রে করার টেন্ডেন্সি জোনাথন সুইফটের লেখার মধ্যে আমরা পাই। What are the important critical comments in this particular section? The exact dimensions that Gulliver enumerates in this chapter emphasize Gulliver's smallness. At a huge sized kitchen, at a huge sized empire depict করে Gulliver's smallness. The description of the church, for example, reinforces this notion. Size denotes morality. While Swift also shows us another magnified view of the human flesh. And Gulliver sees people with obvious tumors and cysts, and states, but the most hateful sight of all was lice crawling on these clothes, and I could see distinctly the limbs of this vermin. So Gulliver's interest as a doctor is piqued because he suggests that he would like to dissect one of these vermin, but he adds, the sight was so nauseous that it perfectly turned my stomach. So এক ধরনের physical description যেটা almost can cause nausea and vomiting inside Gulliver, এরকম একটা description এই particular জায়গায় দেওয়া হচ্ছে. The lesson is this: the giant beggars may be physically revolting, but the pernicious little vermin are even much so. Physically revolting হতে পারে giant beggars, they are basically magnified representation of the small human beings. So up to chapter 4 in this video lecture. In the next video lecture, which I am soon uploading along with it, I will analyze the next chapters, chapter 5 to 9. Thank you.